over. Thank you all for coming to today's webinar, Elements of Successful Synagogue Websites. My name is Hirsch Fishman, and I'm a web designer who works with lots of synagogues. I just wanted to give you a few quick notes about my background before we begin. I've been working with websites in the Jewish community since 2001 and been designing synagogue websites for over 5 years now. I have a background in web design, web development, WordPress, and content strategy. My experiences as a synagogue member in my own right inform my decisions when designing synagogue websites. And for more information, you can visit my website at synagogue-websites.com. Now, one word about our sponsor quickly, Chaverware. Chaverware is one of the most popular and trusted synagogue membership software companies out there. Their system can be run in a Windows environment or through an online portal in your web browser. It seamlessly integrates with popular accounting systems such as QuickBooks and Sage 50 Accounting, and you can visit chaverware.com for more information. Now, I just want to go over what I'm hoping are the goals of this webinar, which are 3 goals. The first is to describe what I consider essential elements that make a successful synagogue website. The second is to give you some big picture ideas about how to make your synagogue's website more successful. And the third is to convey some common sense items that you can easily implement after today's webinar. And without further ado, let's dive right in. There are 4 broad components of what I consider successful synagogue websites. These are not necessarily in order of importance, and all the examples that I'm going to show you are from synagogue websites that I've designed. Now, the first broad component is contact and information, and there are 4 elements to this. There's the address, phone and email, staff directory, Google Map, and the newsletter subscription field. Now, let's talk about contact information. These should be super easy for people to find on your synagogue's website. If I want to call my own synagogue, for example, I don't necessarily want to go digging for the phone number. In fact, my own synagogue's website actually buries the phone number, which bothers me to no end when I do want to reach them. It's also useful to display the phone number and address in prominent places, because if I want to, say, for example, click on the address or plug it into Google Maps or to get to directions on my phone, I want to easily see that address and to be able to find it. That's why these belong front and center in an obvious location. And as far as email addresses, I usually recommend that you have a general office address or info address or something like that, and make sure that somebody actually checks it. That's the most important part. Now, here are some examples of prominent placement of contact information for synagogues in the header. In the first example, it's in the top bar of the header, and it visually stands out. And in the second example here, it's in the header itself next to the logo and is very prominent. Here are 2 more examples of how the synagogue's contact information is prominently placed. Now, the next element is a staff directory. This is going to be a list of your synagogue's professional staff, their names and positions. It must include phone extensions and email addresses to be really user-friendly. Now, if your synagogue has a dial-by extension directory, it's very handy to put the extension along with the person's information. Don't hide the ability to contact a staff member behind a contact form. Sometimes people just want to send an email. Now, for example, say you have a member or a prospective member who wants to email the rabbi directly. Using a contact form on the website is very impersonal. That's not to say that you shouldn't have a contact form, though, because there are useful reasons for having so. The main thing to keep in mind with a staff directory is that it's action-oriented, which is why I suggest keeping it separate from the page with the staff or clergy bios and photos. Now, here's a good example of a staff directory. You can see it's a nice organization. It says the title, their name, their phone extension, and their name links to the email address. You don't have to write out their email addresses per se, but it is okay to make their names link to their email addresses like we've done so here. Now, the next element is a map, preferably a Google map. This allows a visual display of the synagogue's location that can be embedded right onto a page. It's very action-oriented, and it can be opened to a new tab for directions right to Google. This is especially useful when people are viewing the website on mobile phones, I always recommend that the page should be clearly marked map and directions, and it should go in either the about or contact sections because that's where people will be looking for it. Oftentimes, it also can be a quick link in a header menu or something like that. Now, here's an example of a Google map embedded right onto the website. Nice display there. And here's another good example from a synagogue on Long Island, which is combined with written directions below it. Now, the directions are too long to fully capture here, but it does include directions from many different points right below the Google map. Now, the next element is a newsletter subscription field. By this, it's something that allows your site visitors, especially prospective members, to join the synagogue's mailing list. If your synagogue is using Constant Contact, MailChimp, or any other mailing list service like that, they all offer very easy integration. They all offer sign-up forms that can be embedded right onto your website. And there's also WordPress plugins available for easy integration, assuming that your synagogue's website is using WordPress. One thing I always recommend is that you have the website signups go to a separate group within your mailing list. That way you can selectively send out emails just to that group and not send them your full synagogue regular mailing list. Now, I don't think that this is so important an item that should go in the header, but it can go on the home page or as a link in the header or footer, which would be sufficient. Here are some good examples of newsletter sign-up forms from synagogues. The first two are from that synagogue's Constant Contact account, and the third links to the sign-up form from Constant Contact. Now, the next broad component is a calendar and schedule, and there's going to be 5 parts to this: service times, the full calendar, Shabbat candlelighting times, holiday schedule, and upcoming Jewish holidays. Now, to me, services are the most basic events at a synagogue. They don't usually change from week to week, and I would definitely include them on the homepage to make it super obvious to people who are looking for them. The key thing here is you don't want to make people search for them. Now, here are some good examples of synagogue websites that prominently list the service times right on the homepage. And here's another more detailed example. The second component is a full calendar. This obviously lets people see all that is happening at the synagogue on a monthly basis. Lots of synagogues use embeddable Google Maps, which is perfectly fine to use. If your synagogue is using a Google calendar and it's also running on WordPress, there are also plugins out there that will let you dynamically pull events from the Google Calendar and list them right on the homepage, which can be a very handy feature. Now, there's also WordPress calendars and event management systems that can output the list of events in a more visually appealing layout, such as sorting events by color-coded category or by displaying the events in a grid format, complete with a featured image for each event. Now, calendar systems and which calendar to use, there are a lot of considerations when it comes to them, and this can be an entirely separate discussion about what type of calendar system will best benefit a synagogue. I'm not necessarily going to get into that today, but it can be a whole separate conversation. Now, here are some examples of full calendars. Here's an example of a Google Calendar that is embedded right onto the synagogue's website. And here's an example of a calendar that's from an event management system, specifically for WordPress, and the calendar is sortable by color-coded category. The next element are Shabbat times and candlelighting times and information. It's a nice touch that doesn't require a lot of space. Hebcal.com is a very popular website which offers both a WordPress plugin and also code that you can just drop onto your website. All you need to do is just enter the zip code to display the candlelighting times. And here are 2 examples. Both are using the script from Hebcal. The next element is kind of seasonal in nature, but to me it's very important. It is a detailed breakdown of what is happening when over the holiday or holidays. Most likely this is going to be for the high holidays, for Rosh Hashanah through Simchat Torah, or for Passover. I think it's important to present it in a user-friendly manner. While you may want to save the information for future years, as you're going through the holidays, don't forget to remove items from the list after they happen to keep the information user-friendly. Now, here is an example of from the high holidays. These list all the service times in an easy-to-follow format. For each day, it shows exactly what's going on.
Is it bothering you?
The next element is a list of Jewish holidays for the coming year. This can go on a separate page in your worship section. Now, it helps congregants plan ahead, and it's very useful for people who maybe are planning time off from work and vacation days and that sort of thing. Heedcal.com also, you can get this information right from them. They maintain 4 years of holidays published and available for download from their website. We're halfway there. Just take a quick breath, hang with me, and we'll continue on. So moving on, the third broad component is pictures. And to me, there are 4 parts to this: congregants and synagogue life, unique architectural elements of the synagogue itself, board of directors, and then clergy and staff headshots. The first element are photos of congregants and synagogue life. I'm sure you've all seen websites where they have the full width pictures on the home page and on internal pages and everything. There's definitely a design trend nowadays is for large rotating sliders on the home page and scattered throughout the website. You really need high quality photos for this because smaller photos will be blurry, especially if you're using a full width slider or full width images that span the entire screen. It's just too prominent to have small images that are blurry. It would be really useful to find somebody with a photographer's eye or a photography background to take the photos. You can easily put out a call within your synagogue, and I'm sure there's somebody who can contribute. It's important for the website to take photos of happy, smiling people or of people that are doing something. The idea is that you want to help give a really positive first impression to potential members, and it also gives off the feel of being engaging and exciting for current members. Now, to me, it's simply a must for a modern design synagogue website. Let me show you some examples. Here's an example of a rotating image slider that spans the full width of the home page. And it's combined with the welcome message that appears over all the slides. Here's another example where the full width rotating image slider is combined with a welcome message and some call to action buttons. And we have one final example here of a full width rotating image slider that's combined with a welcome message. All of these examples make the synagogues in question seem like a warm, welcoming place. Now, the next element are photos of unique architectural elements of the synagogue. By these, I mean things like stained glass, maybe your ark in the sanctuary, any other sanctuary elements, doors, exteriors, etc. Maybe there's some central element that all members universally recognize. Now, as a designer, I like to incorporate these into background elements to give websites a personal touch. Now, one thing regarding these, and I think it's really important here, don't put a photo of an empty sanctuary on the homepage. People join synagogues for the people, not the building. And if you put a photo of an empty sanctuary on the homepage, it's fine, but it doesn't really give the nicest touch. Now, let me show you some examples. Here's what I mean. So in the first example, this synagogue has a very unique Torah ark cover, which is very prominent in the sanctuary. We faded it into the background of the header. In the second example, the synagogue has a very unique exterior element, which frames the rotating image slider on the homepage. Now, the next element are photos of the synagogue's board of directors. Having this on the board's page makes a large synagogue seem much more approachable, and I think it welcomes people by showing them friendly faces. It's much more visually interesting than just a list of names in a table. It's nice to take the headshots and crop them uniformly, and what I mean by this is having people stand in the same location and position and then cropping the photo so that the person's head and shoulders are visible. It's even more important, get people to smile. It really doesn't take much effort to have someone come to a board meeting with a camera and to take pictures of everybody. Now, if you can't do that, you can also ask for professional headshots if people have. Let me give you an example. This is what I mean. Now, I'm only showing here one row of the board list. There are two more. I just couldn't fit them all on one slide. But you can see you have nice smiling faces. They're all cropped uniformly. Most of them are taken in front of the same background. It clearly says their name and title. Along the same lines, the next element are clergy and staff photos. This is very important, especially for the clergy, because people do consider joining a synagogue because of the clergy. And same thing as I said before, it doesn't take too much effort to have someone go around, in this case the office, with a camera and take pictures of the clergy and the staff. You should crop the photos uniformly, taking them in the same way as I said before, with head and shoulders, and get smiling people. That's important. It really welcomes people by seeing smiling, friendly faces. I think it's okay to combine the staff photos with contact information, but with clergy photos, you would want to combine it with the bios because that's a more appropriate place. Now, one thing also, please, please, please keep it up to date. You don't need to show clergy photos from 20 years ago because those are obviously very outdated. Let me give you 2 examples of what I mean. Now, here's a good example of a staff list. This is actually taken from the same synagogue as the previous example. And you can see where their photo is combined with their contact information. Clearly shows their name, their position, their email address, their phone number, and everybody is smiling and from the same background. Here's an example from the clergy page from the same synagogue, where you have the same idea where the clergy photos are taken in from the same background, they're all positioned the same, they're smiling, it has their brief bios and their contact information. Now, moving on, the final component is going to be content. And there are 4 parts to this. There's calls to action, membership information, ways to donate, and social media. Now, by by calls to action, which is the first element, this is what you want people to do on the website. You want them to donate, contact, visit, RSVP for an event, become a member, that sort of thing. Calls to action can also be for big ticket sections, such as the religious school, the preschool, men's club, sisterhood, calendar, etc. Design-wise, you can use icons to emphasize them and provide more immediate visual recognition, or you can use bright colored blocks and buttons or photos with labels. And the goal is to emphasize the actions that visitors want to take and get them there as quick as possible. Let me show you some examples. Now, here's an example of calls to action from a synagogue's homepage that are indicated with bright, colorful icons. Here's another example of icons. This time they're used for the more big ticket sections like I had mentioned. And here's an example of calls to action highlighted on the homepage using brightly colored blocks and buttons. And there's one final example of big ticket sections which are highlighted with photos. Now, the second element is membership information. This is obviously important for prospective members who are motivated to join. Where on your website do they go to do that? What steps do they need to take? What information do they need to see? Whether it's a welcome letter, membership form that they can download and print as a PDF and then send back to the office. Many synagogues now are using online forms, which is even better if possible. And I think it's useful to make the membership section into its own top-level link in a main menu, as opposed to putting it within maybe an About section or somewhere else where it's a little more varied. Now, here's an example of a synagogue that has a button and the rotating image slider on the homepage. So it's very obvious where prospective members can go to find out information about joining the synagogue. And I had also showed you another example earlier of a rotating image slider that had a similar button in it. Now, the third element is going to be ways to donate, which is one of the main calls to action on the synagogue website. I think it's important to put links in the header, in the main menu, call to action icons, etc. Now, most synagogues are moving in the direction of having online donation forms, which allow for credit card payment, which to me is a must in today's day and age. Younger generations are just used to paying online, and more people are becoming more comfortable with it. Now, one thing I don't like is when the only way to donate to a synagogue is to print a form from their website, mail it to the synagogue office with a check. That's a little outdated, but at the same time, you still should tell people how to do that because some people will want to do exactly that. Another big no-no is using standalone PayPal buttons. You can easily integrate PayPal with an online form, for example, that will make it much more user-friendly. Now, there's a lot more I've written about on my blog, specifically about donations and other considerations, such as payment gateways, notifications, back office needs, etc. And you can find out more at synagogue-websites.com/blog. Now, just a few examples here. In terms of getting to the donate section or page itself, here are some ways in which the donate link is prominently displayed as a call to action on the website. The first example is a button in the footer of the homepage. The second example is in a list of quick links in the header. And then the third example is a brightly colored button in the top of the header. Two more examples for you. Here is one where the first is a link in the header in their quick links section. And the second is a little more unique. It's a tab that appears on the right side of all the pages with their main calls to action. Now, the last element is integration with social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc. Now, it's customary to put icons with links to each of the synagogue's social media channels. Sometimes they're put in the header, sometimes in the footer. Sometimes synagogues put one of those Facebook like boxes on their homepage. I've done a brief survey of synagogue websites, and I found that 70% of conservative synagogue websites have Facebook pages. So there should be no reason why it's not very easy to find a link to the synagogue's Facebook page from their website. For those that have Twitter, you can also embed a Twitter feed on the homepage. Now, one question I am often asked is how synagogues should handle videos, to which I say that synagogues should create a YouTube channel and embed their videos onto the site right from there. Now, here are some examples of Facebook like boxes from 3 separate synagogue homepages, which pull the feed right from Facebook and then displays it right onto the website. And here are examples of how I have icons in the footer to the synagogue's social media channels. So to summarize, a successful synagogue website merges design, content, and functionality in an interesting and user-friendly manner. It tells a story about your synagogue and community in a way that hopefully reflects positively on it. It's visually engaging and interesting. It lets members and non-members take the actions they want to. It's organized intuitively so that it is easy to browse and never difficult to find information on. And it shows that the synagogue is a place to be proud of and belong to. I'd now like to open it up to questions if anyone would like to ask something.
Well, how do we weigh, I don't know how to ask the question, is there a way to integrate?
Question?
Sure.
Will you be sending out a copy of these slides to the participants?
I will, yeah.
On the holidays where you have all the days and times, should those be live links so people can click them and take them right into their calendar?
It all depends. I mean, it depends what calendar system you're using. Hold on, getting a little echo here. Yeah, it depends what calendar system you're using. If you're using a Google Calendar, it doesn't necessarily allow for that. If you're using an event management system, then it might allow for that. You can create individual events for each occurrence, for whatever's happening, and you can link directly to those.
One other question. Are there any good sources for religious school registration systems?
A lot of the popular synagogue membership management systems, such as Cleverware, they do offer religious school registrations and management and that sort of thing. I personally have also built registration forms on all the websites I build for religious schools, just a straight registration form, and it goes right to the office and everything. So yeah, it depends what you're looking for. If you already use one of those membership management systems, then they'll be able to do that.
Okay, I mean, I was looking for something more sophisticated that would, take the incoming information, create a class list. If there was any monthly fees, it would automatically, bill a credit card that's on file, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure the answer to that question. It's not really something I've gotten into personally. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's resources out there that you can find on Google or that sort of thing.
Okay.
There are more and more companies coming up with these fully integrated shul management systems that incorporate the website, the calendar, the events, the school, all of that. It's like a whole new world out there. Is HavaWare connected with any of them, or is HavaWare moving in that direction so that people don't have to leave HavaWare in order to use an integrated system like that?
I'm not entirely sure. I think that question would probably best be directed towards them.
Can I ask you a question about, like, you showed different designs, like one had the tabs, one had icons, or different styles. Are those things that you expect the congregation to give you direction on, or are those things that you come up with?
Personally, as a designer, those are things that I come up with, but in terms of the visual look of it. But a lot of times it is up to the congregation to provide the direction on it. Now, most synagogues tend to have the same calls to action and directions and that sort of thing, so it's all fairly similar. But yeah, it is usually up to the synagogue to provide the priorities for what they really want to emphasize on the homepage.
I was more asking about the design element of it, like you showed some with a colored box and some with like those line drawings and some with the pictures behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I'm personally working with synagogues, I do ask for their input as to what look they like, whether it's, icons or bright colors or, that sort of thing to give me some direction. And certainly if you're working on your own synagogue's website, like if you have a team there that are working on it, you can just look around and find these ideas on your own to implement.
Another question, are there any particularly good sources of WordPress themes for synagogue websites that you've come across?
Not necessarily. Now, I do design templates for synagogue websites using WordPress. The United Synagogue also does offer basic WordPress themes to their affiliated synagogues. I've designed them, and I also support synagogues using them. They're mobile friendly, but they do have a template feel to it. So there's that consideration. But you can just go to uscjhost.org and to find out more information about that. Any other
yes,
questions
the
out there?
websites. Hello?
Yep.
The websites that you create, once you're done with them, I assume that in terms of maintaining them in an ongoing way and making changes and so forth, they're relatively easy because you don't necessarily have a congregant who knows how to program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I personally am building all my websites using WordPress, which is a very easy content management system to use. That's actually something that I was going to touch on a little bit in some of the other webinars that I have coming up in a couple of weeks, is about WordPress and, what makes a synagogue website outdated and that sort of thing. And I'd certainly be glad to talk to you offline as well about, WordPress and using it.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so if there's no more questions, let's see here. Past questions. This is just a reminder about the 2 other upcoming webinars I have in my summer series, if these happen to be of any interest to you. On August 2nd, next week, we're doing What Makes a Synagogue Website Outdated. And then on August 9th, in 2 weeks, we're doing a WordPress Skills Seminar Beyond the Basics. If they might be informative for you or for someone else at your synagogue, just let them know, and I will also be sending out email blasts about them. If you have any questions about anything, here's my contact information for you to reach me at. My email address is hirsch@synagogue-websites.com. My phone number is 919-438-2180, and then my website is synagogue-websites.com. And finally, I hope that this was informative for you and gives you some ideas for improving your synagogue's website. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hirsch.
You're welcome. Thank you.